We'll just be real careful not to talk over each other.
Okay.
Because it's a little sensitive today. It's like a lady at that time of the month. Facebook. Hi, how you doing? We have the amazing Kirk McHenry here today. I already adore him, and I haven't yet Zoom talked to him at all. You guys get to stay at home and watch this, and I don't know if you have your clothes on. Yeah, you can message me, just no dick pics. I've had it with that, just like every other woman on the planet. Okay, so I want to let you know that this is the intro Kirk McHenry sent me, and I'm going to read it because, I got a problem. You don't even want to go there. Okay. Kirk McHenry has been seen on One Mic Stand with Kevin Hart. He did the voice of Toe Jam in the video game Toe Jam and Earl 3 Mission to Earth. He's been touring overseas, entertaining our troops for 20 years and plays in comedy clubs all over the country. Welcome to the stage right now, Kirk McHenry. Hi, Kirk.
Hey, Linda, how are you? Telling me.
Fabulous. What's going on? What city are you in today?
I'm in Vegas.
Awesome. What have you got going on right now this week?
Well, last night I did the 1 year anniversary show over at Buck's Tavern. I was one of the comics there, a bunch of us over there, Mark Pitta, David Ryan, Don Barnhart, a bunch of other people. That was a lot of fun because I really enjoyed doing that room. I have a show Saturday here in Vegas. I can't even the name of the place though. Sorry. I know I posted all the stuff on my wall on my Facebook and my Instagram, so people can go check on that. And then I go out to the Bay Area, and I have like 5 or 6 shows out in the Bay Area. So I'll be in the Bay Area for a couple of weeks. But yeah.
Well, I watched your video. I watched your comedy video. You're hella funny.
Thank you. I try.
And before we go any further, I just want to let you know that I am so proud of you doing comedy for the troops. Thank you so very much.
That is my pleasure. I am a veteran myself, so it means a lot to me to be able to go over there and put a smile on those, those young men and women's faces, and to actually perform on some of the bases that I was actually stationed on when I was in Okinawa, Japan. So a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh. I can't think of anything I would rather do than perform for the troops. I once got to do comedy in a rainy parking lot in Vancouver, Washington at like 7 a.m. for 1,000 veterans.
Oh, wow. How was that?
It was just dreamy.
It's so much fun. You probably didn't even realize how cold it was.
No, you don't. When you're performing, all your pain goes away.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So you're a military veteran of the Marine Corps.
Yes. Right there. Bam.
Hot dang.
Yeah.
So I would rather talk about the military and your military comedy than anything in the world. You know me. But like when you were I have to go back to little Kirk. Tell me who you were as a little kid. I want to pretend I'm growing up with you for a second.
I'm the baby of 3. Grew up in East Oakland, in a great neighborhood. My mom actually still lives in the house that I grew up in. She's been there now for like 52 years. It's a really, really good neighborhood. A lot of kids. For the longest, I was the youngest kid on the neighbor in the block, on the block and in the neighborhood. So I was always, running behind the big kids. They were always, coming to get me and have me play football with them in the street and stuff like that. And I had a great childhood. Played sports my whole life. Baseball was my first team sport. Swimming was actually my first sport. I swam for the YMCA. Yes, black people swim, and we swim very well. I have the ribbons to prove it. But no, I did swimming. I did swimming first, and baseball was my first team sport, and I played baseball pretty much my whole life. But yeah, I was just, I'm a boy. My dad was my hero. He passed six years ago. He was my hero until the day he died. Still, I always said if I could be half the man that he was, be successful. So still striving for that. But I was just that fun kid. I always laughed. I always wanted to see people happy and see people smile. Fell in love with comedy at a very, very young age. I always liked funny stuff, cartoons, sitcoms. I fell in love with stand-up when I snuck and listened to a Richard Pryor record when I was probably like 7 years old, that I had overheard my mom and some of my aunts and uncles listening to the day before. And I snuck down there the next day and I listened to it, and I didn't get all the jokes, but the ones I got, I was like, whoa, this is really funny. And then I saw Richard Pryor on TV, and I was just, like, wow, he doesn't have any props. He doesn't have anything. He's just up there by himself with a microphone, and these people are like hanging on his every word. I was like, I got to know how to do this. But I just always was, I just always wanted to make people laugh. I always made my friends laugh. I wasn't the class clown because my mom wasn't going for that. I went to private and Catholic school, so my mom was like, I'm not paying money for you to be a fool. So I made my friends laugh, and with all the things from growing up, going to college, joining the military and everything, I knew that one day I would be doing this.
Nice. So when was the very first, when did you first go on stage? What was the very first experience, the best and worst you experienced?
Don't make me relive it. Don't make me relive it.
Yeah.
My first on stage was in Norfolk, Virginia. I stayed in Virginia years after I got out of the military, and I was married to my wife at the time, and I had already been writing jokes. I had been writing premises, but I didn't really know how to rehearse. I didn't know how to tag jokes or anything. I knew what I wanted to do. In my mind, I knew what I wanted to do, but what happened was they had a comedy competition in Norfolk, and the winner got to open. It was somebody that was coming to town who had been on like Def Jam or something like that. And I told her, I said, I'm gonna do this competition. I've been writing, and I'm gonna do it. And I went up there, and I signed this list, and I went up, I don't know, probably third or fourth, and I told 3 jokes, and the guy came and took the mic out of my hand. And he was like, hey, don't quit your day job. And I'm just like, wow. But in my mind, I was like, I know I can do this. I just didn't really know what I was doing. So my first wife and I got divorced, and I moved back to Oakland, and I started, I got hooked up with some of the comedians in the Bay Area, and we were working out at a place called Dorsey's Locker in North Oakland. Linnell was actually the host back then. Shout out to Linnell. And I started going there, and I was coming along a little bit. And then one day, Daniel Dugar walked in. Shout out to Daniel Dugar, my mentor. And he was just like, man, you're funny. He said, you just don't know what you're doing. And he was like, I'm going to help you. And he took me under his wing, and he showed me a lot of things, along with, Linnell, Dennis Gaxiola, John Austin, a lot of other guys that were in Oakland at the time. Dijon, who, rest in peace, Rip the Player, rest in peace, all these guys who were veterans at the time, they just kind of took a liking to me, and they helped me. Dugar took me on the road, my first time ever. And I just started falling in love with it just more and more and more. And I just started working hard at, getting your 15-minute set together. And then once I had that, then I started working for my 30-minute set. And, here I am now.
That's fabulous. Had some really great comedians take you under their wings.
Yes, yeah, there were. I mean, like even last night, one of the comics who performed over at Bucks with us, who helped me get into one of the hardest rooms possible in the Bay back then, which was at Throckmorton Theater. Mark Pitta helped me. Mark Pitta was another one who helped me get in that room. He showed me a lot of stuff. I was just one of those comics, and I still am one of those comics that when someone's trying to help me or teach me something, I pay attention. I don't have to talk. I listen. My dad always told me, you learn a lot more from listening than talking. So I pay attention when someone that I think is further along in their career or they're somewhere where I want to be, if they take the time to help me, I'm gonna pay attention.
Absolutely. So who have you turned around and helped?
Oh my goodness. One of the guys that I really helped a lot, I don't even think of him as a fellow comic anymore. He's more like a brother to me. Mario Hodge, who's really hot right now. We had like a little, I'm not gonna say it was a clique, but there were just certain guys that I hung out with. Another guy that I helped along the way, he actually just won the San Francisco comedy competition this year, Chris Riggins. I worked with Chris, I worked with G King, I worked with Brian Moore. My thing was I helped anyone who was serious about becoming a comic, who wasn't afraid to put the work in. Because the thing with me and anyone that I've ever helped will tell you, I don't take excuses. I tell people I will help you with anything until I feel like you're wasting my time. When I feel like you're wasting my time, I can't work with you anymore. It doesn't mean I don't like you. It just means I can't work with you anymore because you're not serious. So I've helped a lot of people, really too many to name, but I was just always taught by the people who helped me, when you get in the position to help others, just do it. And I just say, even if they hadn't told me to do that, I would have done it anyway. That's just the type of person I am. If I can help somebody, and they don't have to go through some of the things that I went through to get in certain rooms or, get on certain stages or whatever, I'm gonna do it,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what advice, and I know you've probably been asked before, but what advice do you have for up and coming comics, pitfalls to avoid?
Pitfalls to avoid.
Yeah.
Don't think that you know everything. Just because you watch comics on TV and you may really like certain comics, you don't know what they had to go through to get to where they are. You don't know the time and the effort it takes to make a joke work, to put a routine together. Don't be afraid to fail. A lot of new comics are afraid to bomb. I knew people who started out, when I started out, who I thought were 10 times funnier than me, and they bombed one night and they quit immediately. I would say what Linnell told me years ago, you have to have thick skin to be in this business. If you don't have thick skin, this isn't for you. This isn't, a lot of people think that they're gonna jump into comedy instead of getting a quote unquote real job. And I tell people, this is the most work I've ever done in my life. And I've always had everything come to me like really easy in life. So you got to put in the work. There's no way around it. You have to put in the work. You have to have thick skin. You have to be able to take constructive criticism. A lot of new comics, they want to hear what they want to hear. They don't want to hear what they need to hear. And when you tell them what they need to hear, they think they say you're a hater. Oh, you're hating on me. And then, no, I'm not hating. I'm trying to help you. I would just, those are the things that I would say. And I would just say, go with your gut. Find your voice. It's like I tell people, to me, making it in this business now, like getting to it's not about all the fame and the fortune of it. If you are able to find your voice in this business and do comedy the way you think about it in your mind and the way you see it, you did it. You did it. And all the other stuff it's all gonna fall into place. Like my dad used to tell me, it doesn't matter where you are. If you're doing your thing, the pros are gonna find you. So, just stay true to yourself. Stay true to yourself and keep God first. I'm a very spiritual man. I'm a Christian. If you want to label it, I'm a Christian. I'm a child of God. I believe that if you keep God first, don't sell your soul for fortune and fame. It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
Absolutely. Well said. What would you say if I said to you, I want to talk about how bipolar opinions are in comedy? We know everybody's out there arguing about everything in the world right now. But even in comedy, there's always two opposite opinions about anything. Like you have the people that say, you're not a real comic if you're not performing 3 times a day. Then you have the others over here saying, just make it quality. So I was just kind of wondering if we could run through some of the stereotypical things that there's dual opinions about in comedy.
Well, that right there, when people say you're not a real comic if this, you're not a real comic if that, like I said, you have to be true to yourself. You have to do you. Some people don't have to hit 3 open mics a night. Some people don't have to, even go to open mics. I go to open mics when I feel like going to open mics. A long time ago, I kind of got fed up with open mics because I'd taken a break from them for a while. And then when I went back, I didn't feel like the comics were really using the open mics for what they were supposed to be used for, and that's to work out new material. Comics were going in there and they were doing their routine. I'm like, how are you going to improve on anything and work new stuff if you're not even trying? They were so afraid to I'm not going to say bomb, but just test new material. So what I started doing is I started rehearsing in the shower. I would write my stuff down, and the shower head was my microphone, and I would treat it like it was an actual show. And the one thing that I would always do, and I said it last night to someone, is I was always honest with myself. If a joke didn't work in my mind to me, if I was like, that's not funny, I'm not gonna force it. I'm gonna tinker with it and rewrite it or reword it or do something until I get the response that I feel like I should be getting. So I think that comics, you have to do you. That's the main thing. It's not about what's a real comic and what's not. You're a real comic if you got the balls to get up on that stage and make people laugh. There's a difference between what we call barbershop comics and real comics. To me, a barbershop comic makes people laugh in the barbershop, and they are usually telling stories that maybe 2 to 3 people in the barbershop can relate to. They were either there, so it's not even like you're telling a joke. You're basically reminiscing. But when you can take that same story and you can get in front of a crowd of, say, 300, 400, 500 people, and you can make these people who never saw you, don't know you from a can of paint, but you can tell them that story with so much, description and they can feel like they were really there. That's a comic. That's a professional comedian.
Got it.
Yeah.
What's some of the crazy, I've been in this business 8 years. Okay. And I'm older and I have a TBI. And so my energy level isn't what the young people's is. And so I can't go out to clubs 3-4 times a night, and money too. I mean, I don't drive. I have a TBI. So it's a lift here and a lift there. Mm-hmm. And so I've seen in only 8 years of what judgmental comics call playing with comedy. I don't look at it like I'm playing with comedy, but some people judge you if you have limits. And in 8 years of this kind of comedy that I can do, I've seen a lot of craziness in the comedy scene. So without naming names, do you want to say some crazy stuff you've seen?
Everything isn't for everyone. You know, what works for someone else doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. You know, I used to be that comic that would go and hit all these mics and hang out afterwards and all of that. Now, I don't do that anymore. There's no need for me to hang. I go and I do what I'm supposed to do. You know, I talk to who I'm supposed to talk to, and I go home. You know, a lot of comics, what a lot of people don't understand is in this comedy game, there are a lot of people who will give you bad information on purpose. Certain comics, if they feel threatened by a new up and coming comic, they will try to get close to that comic and mislead that comic, but they will make it seem and sound so sincere that this young comic will believe them. And, you know, they're basically trying to hold that person down so that they won't pass them up, when really what you should be doing is stepping your game up. I never did anything like that. I always wanted to be around comics who made me work harder, who made me step my game up. So I don't, you know, as far as all the, you know, you have to hang out, you got to do this, you got to do that. If that's what you want to do it. You know, I don't feel that it's part of the job. You know, you can go to a comedy room and you know, like I said, you can talk to who you need to talk to while you're there. You don't have to stay until 2, 3 in the morning. You know, those are a lot of, like I said, those are a lot of young comics, a lot of single comics, a lot of comics who are into things that I'm not into. You know, I don't want to be out that late doing what you're doing. It's just, it doesn't have, to me, it doesn't have anything to do with comedy, you know? So you got to do you. You got to do you. You got to go with your gut, and you just have to make the most of the time that you're on stage. When someone lets you get on stage, like Dugar told me years ago, whether you're doing a feature spot, a guest spot, or you're emceeing, you have to treat that stage like it is yours. Like everyone in there came to see you, and just be consistent. It's not about standing ovation. So it's about being consistent. You're constantly making people laugh everywhere you go. Like he told me, standing ovations are gonna come, but that's not what you're shooting for. You just want to be consistently funny and give a strong performance every time you hit the stage.
Besides Richard Pryor, who's been your favorite comedian or a group of them?
Oh man. Somebody was just asking me this last night. One of my all-time favorite comics is Stephen Wright. I think he is hilarious. My mom gave me a tape of him when I was probably a freshman in high school, and she didn't really get him at the time. And I listened to it. I think it was what was it, the I Have a Pony album? And I listened to it and I thought it was one of the funniest things I'd ever heard in my life. So Stephen Wright, Eddie Murphy, George Carlin, Cosby, who I still think is probably the greatest storyteller of all time. I really, really love Bill Burr. I think Bill Burr is hilarious. Ellen DeGeneres, my all-time favorite female comic. I think she is incredible. Steve Martin. There were so many people that I liked, you know, that I used to just watch. I've always been a fan of comedy. So I watched so many, it's like so many people to name. Like I never watched like only one genre of comic. Like I never just watched black comics, or I never just watched, because to me, you know, it's like the t-shirts that I sell. It says no black, no white, just funny. Because when I was getting started and people would ask me, what type of comedy do you, what's your style? Do you do black comedy? Do you white? And I thought that was the dumbest question you could ask somebody. I'm like, there's no such thing as black comedy or white comedy. You're either funny or you're not, you know? You can put me in a room anywhere, and I'm gonna make them laugh. I tell people you can book me at a Klan rally. They may not like the way I look, but I'm gonna make them laugh. So I don't believe in that. So yeah, but no, those are some of the people that I looked up to. Like I said, there's so many more that I just probably can't even think of. Right, like I said, Steve Martin. You know, I was a big fan of Saturday Night Live. I love that. I used to watch Evening at the Improv when I was a kid. So I've always been a fan and a student of comedy.
Nice. I love that. I started watching comedy on albums with Red Fox.
Okay, another person I listen to. Another person I listen to. Definitely, very funny. Rodney Dangerfield also, because it's funny. Mark Pitt and I were talking last night, and we were talking about people that do the one-liners. You know, that's their style, doing the one-liners. And Rodney Dangerfield and Red Fox had it down to a science. And I tell people they made it look so easy, and that is probably one of the hardest styles of comedy, to just do one-liners over and over, and then for one-liners for an hour. I couldn't do one-liners for 5 minutes.
No, there's so much memorization.
Yeah. So, yeah, but no, those are the people that I, listen to and still listen to this day. And like I said, I'm a fan of comedy. So if I get the opportunity to go see someone, I'm gonna go see him. I'll tell you a story. I went to my wife bought tickets to go see Chris Rock when we were still living in the Bay Area. And she bought tickets to the Sunday show, which was the final show of his shows at the Oakland Paramount Theater. I had a show that Sunday, but it was kind of early in the evening, like afternoon. So, but it was an hour away from Oakland. So I had to drive there. She rode with me. We drove an hour there. So on the way back, I'm doing like 120 trying to get back because I wanted to see this show. And she's like, "Oh, let's just go home. We'll catch him next time." I'm like, "No, let's go. He's probably, if we get there, he'll probably maybe be 10 minutes in, Or I said, he had to have people open for him. So we get to the Paramount. We get there. I asked the guy. I said, "Hey, has he gone on yet?" He said, "No, it's intermission." So we go in there, and we get to our seats and we sit down and we're talking for like 5 minutes, and then the lights go down and the big CR drops down. This is Oakland, California. Put your hands together for Chris Rock, and everybody's clapping like, "Yeah!" And Dave Chappelle walks out. Dave Chappelle walked out and did probably, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes of just pure fire. And I'm just sitting there like, wow. Then Chris Rock walks out, and they stayed on stage together for probably another hour and a half, just going back and forth. And I was just sitting there like, this is amazing. I think I went home that night and ripped my joke notebook up and was like, none of this is funny. I was like, I really need to step it up. But just seeing that, I was just like, wow. Like I was just amazed.
There's something in comedy, Kirk, about being authentic and bringing who you really are on stage. And that takes a while, and finding your persona. Can you shed a little light on your feelings about all that, and maybe like reading the room, anything?
Okay. That right there. Okay, let's start with that, with reading the room. Some of the best advice I ever got in comedy was from Linnell. Linnell taught me to read the room. She explained to me, before you go on stage, you have to look at your audience. You have to see, are they predominantly male? Are they predominantly female? Are they young? Are they old? Is it predominantly Black crowd? Is it predominantly white crowd? And she taught me to play to the majority. She explained to me, laughter is contagious. So once you get the majority of the room laughing, everybody else is going to laugh too. You play to the majority, but you include everyone, but you want to play to the majority. So that's one thing that I always do. Anyone that knows me, that really knows me, they know I will sit in a corner and I will watch the people walk in for the show. And I'll look at each person as they walk in. So that helps, number one. Number two, being yourself on stage, I feel that it helps so much. When your audience knows that you are like not holding anything back from them and you're really being honest, it only helps your performance. because they're like, whoa, this dude is really being honest. And when you can joke about stuff that everyone else can relate to, like problems that everyone's having, you're not trying to act like you're above anybody or anything like that. The audience loves that because they're like, because the majority of people are sitting out there thinking they're the only one going through what they're going through. But when you let them know and you can tell them just by doing like, hey, you may be going through this, but you can still laugh at it. You can still take a moment and laugh at it. So that helps too. And being yourself, if you want to come up with a character or something like that, that's fine and dandy. But like, say me, for instance, I'm from East Oakland. People think Oakland and they think, ghetto and drugs and crime and stuff like that and everything. Yeah, there are parts of Oakland that are like that, but they think a lot of people think that Oakland comics are supposed to be like these, hood comics and talk about that. That's not me. That's not me. I'm born and raised in East Oakland. But I didn't grow up in a hood. I grew up in a neighborhood. I grew up with parents who, were there for me. I went to private and Catholic school. I graduated from Catholic high school. I don't take pride in promoting a lot of negative stereotypes and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong. There are comics out there that can do it and they can make it funny, but it's not me. And that's what I'm saying that, I have to be true to me. I'm not going to try to come off like I'm some street guy and, I grew up in the projects and that's not me. That's not me at all. So, and I think your audience knows, when you're being real. And I think that when your audience thinks they're being lied to, it's going to take away from your performance. Because at the end of the day, you got to go up there and have no fear. You got to go up there and, man, balls to the wall, hey, this is me, this is who I am. And, as you go further in your career, it's going to kind of separate some people from others, but the people who enjoy you, they're going to continue to come see you. And people who are like those people, they're going to come see you. So you're going to build an audience. Everyone can't make everyone laugh. It's just not possible. So you're not going to be funny to everyone, but the people who love you and who want to see you, they're going to do that. They're going to come see you. So just be you on stage. Don't lie to, try to be something you're not, because it's like a gimmick and gimmicks always, expire. And if your gimmick expires and you don't have actual talent to fall back on, your career is going to expire too.
Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about the things that, it's probably the opposite of what you just said, but the things that comedians and comics do to kill the energy in the room and lose the audience? What are some things that you can tell people not to do?
The one thing that like we just said, if you don't read your room, you can kill the audience because you're not paying attention to them. You have to pay attention you have to read your room, and you have to watch. If you're not going on first, you have to watch the other comics who are going on before you. Pay attention to them. Watch what's working. Watch what's not working. And if it's not working for them, don't feel like you got to go out there and say, I'm gonna make it work. No, just stay away from it. I think that that's a way to really lose a crowd. I think that certain topics there are certain things, like me personally, I don't touch. Rape jokes, I don't do them. I really don't get into politics too much. The world now is so PC. It's really easy to offend people. So I think that you should, pay attention to your audience, watch the guys who go on before you. And I think that a lot of people know, as comics, if something's offensive, it is. And unless you're one of those comics that go for shock value, that style is another very hard style to do. I would say stay away from it. Don't even go for that. Don't just stay away from it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Because once you lose a crowd, you know, 9 times out of 10, you're not gonna get them back. You're not gonna get them back.
I know that the last thing I think audiences want to hear is half-baked jokes about racism and the Holocaust.
I mean, it's a lot of stuff, you know, my thing is it's been done. A lot of it's been done. And it's kind of like how I feel about certain movies and certain songs. If you can't do it better than the original, don't do it. Don't do it. And, you know, just like I said, certain topics just shouldn't be touched. Like I said, you know, the whole rape and, you know, stuff that some people hold really near and dear to their hearts. You know, don't try to step on it. Don't you just some people are not gonna you can't make some things funny, you know. I mean, that's just how I feel about that.
Yeah. Some people, like we have this one comedian here in town that loves to go and touch on all those topics, and he just doesn't get that he's turning stomachs in the audience. It's like he's oblivious.
Some people just don't care. You know, some people don't care. But like I said, that's a whole nother style. The you know, the shock value. And I think okay, going back to comics who I watch, the one who I feel is the best at that style of comedy, Daniel Tosh. Amazing. Touches on everything. Everything. Daniel Tosh and Corey Holcomb are probably the two best at that style because they go out there and they can touch on things like I said I would never touch on, but they make it funny. And they make it very funny. And like I said, unless you can do that, I would say leave it alone. Leave it alone. Or like I said, you know, some people don't care. Some people they don't care. So they're going out there. Some people like to, you know, kind of tick people off. That's just not my thing. I like to see people smile. I want to see people go home holding their stomach from me making them laugh, you know.
Yes, that's the effect that's the best. I just
Yeah.
think that the highest energy you can put out there is love and acceptance, not judgment and pissing people off. I just don't think that that's a good. Nowadays, it just doesn't take much to upset people.
No, it really doesn't. Like I said, the world is so PC. I joke about that on stage about things being so PC. But I just, you know, at the end of the day, it's not who I am. Like it's like you were just asking me a second ago about certain things, being true to yourself. That's not who I am. I'm not a mean person. You know, I don't want to offend anyone at my show. I don't want anyone to leave my show saying, "Oh, he said that. Oh, I didn't like that." Or, you know, now is that possible? Not, you know, some people are not going to get certain jokes. Some people, you know, you're not going to make everyone laugh. But am I going to go out there and blatantly try to tick someone off or push someone's buttons? Nah, it's not who I am. Not who I am.
Can you talk to the younger comics and even people that love comedy? Can you talk about how to stay in good with bookers and clubs and how to really screw yourself over?
The best way to stay in good and not screw yourself over is to always remain professional. I have done that my entire career. I've always remained professional. I try to show up. I'm not even gonna say try. I show up 30 minutes early to shows. If I think I'm gonna be, if I think I'm gonna get there 20 minutes early, I call and say, "Hey, I'm running a little late." You know, you don't want to be that comic that comes in there and gets drunk. You don't want to be that comic that comes in there and tries to hit on all the wait staff and stuff like that. You know, when clubs say you can have, you know, some drinks or you can have some food, that's not the time when you want to order the most expensive thing on the menu every night and you don't want to take advantage of, you know, I can get all these free drinks, so I'm gonna have, you know, 10 shots and 5 beers, and you know, you don't want to do that. You want to always acknowledge the wait staff, the bar and the wait staff. You want to always acknowledge that. Be nice to them. I was always taught to, like, when you complete a weekend or something, leave a tip for the wait staff and everything, because they, they will more likely bring you stuff to the green room and stuff like that. So you want to leave somebody, just, say, hey, let them split this up. But no, I would just say remain professional. Remain professional. Listen to what the people are telling you. Sometimes they'll tell you what works in their club and what doesn't work. So pay attention. Don't try to always be the one that comes in and say, oh, well, they told me this wasn't gonna work, but I did it anyway and it killed. You don't have to be first. Sometimes paying attention and listening will go a long way, because there are a lot of really funny comics out there who unfortunately, are not working the really good clubs and the really good rooms, or going overseas and stuff like that. I know comics who went overseas and were told not to say certain things, and they said it the first night just to, try to come off rebellious, and they got sent home. We're supposed to be over there for 3 weeks, and they got sent home after the first show. And so I just remain professional, remain respectful.
Why is it that comedians feel like they have to make fun of the comedy club they're performing in?
Sometimes it's funny. Certain things can be funny, but sometimes comedians can go too far. They can insult the room or insult the owners or something like that. But I think comics know what they're doing. They know when they're taking it too far. They know the things to say. Like, if it's not that many people, you can say stuff like, oh, we could have done this on a 3-way or something like that. Or you guys could have come to my hotel room and we could have done this, and, stuff like that, which everybody says. But I think there's a difference when, people know you're joking and when people know you're serious, or you're trying to be mean. So that, like I said, it's a thin line, but it's just a line that I don't cross. And it's not because I'm afraid to. It's just not who I am.
Yeah. What's the best advice you have to give people if they want to start performing for the troops?
If you want to start performing for the troops,
a lot of people tell me they want to do it, and I would love to really USO or AFE my way through life as well. But it's kind of a secret little club. You hear about all the performances after the fact. So what's some advice to get ready?
I got in a long time ago. And I just, like I said, my mentor, Daniel Dugar, got me in. We were working with a guy, Kenny Hill, who I still work with to this day. And then Dugar actually took over a lot of the rooms out there. So I was going over with him. The thing that I would say is, when you are fortunate to get that opportunity, make the most out of it. I mean, go over there and do your thing. Go over there and, let them have it. What a lot of people don't understand is that when you go overseas, everyone wants to go overseas, but people don't really know what it means to go overseas. The time change, the jet lag, you got to do meet and greets, you got to do this and that. You do a show and you hang out afterwards with the troops, and then you go to bed, and then somebody's knocking on your door at 5 o'clock in the morning saying, hey, we got to get to the airport. So, if you are fortunate enough to get over there, just make the most of it. Don't be that comic that goes over there getting drunk. You don't want to be the last one to the lobby for lobby call. Go over there and have fun. There's nothing wrong with having fun, but know how to have fun without, making a fool out of yourself or not being professional, because the people that you don't think are paying attention to what you're doing, they're paying attention. And it can be your driver. It can be, somebody that you're working with, and you think they're just, not really tripping on the fact that you come down 10 minutes late to lobby call every day. That's all going in their report. It's going to go back to them. They're going to say, hey, he was late for lobby call every day. He got drunk. We almost missed one. They're going to talk about all that. So I would say if you are fortunate.
Just froze up. We might have lost Kirk. We'll give him Kirk. Hi.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Just professional. Just professional.
Yeah, I get it. Thank you so much. So I will go on your social media and find out where you're performing this week, and I will share it. And
Thank you.
yeah, and now that you've graduated from the same school that Sinbad did, now you get to come back anytime you want and just say, Linda, give me 5 minutes to plug something today. And you can come back anytime I'm available.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. That means a lot. That means a lot.
I'll go share this to about 60 Facebook groups and a bunch of other different places because I think it's got a lot of great material in it. And I just thank you so much for your time, Kirk.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. Like I said, we've been trying to do this for a while. I'm glad we finally got the opportunity to get it taken care of.
You too. I'm terrible with my, trying to follow through, like sometimes I get sick or I mess up my calendar. So I don't even know what happened in the past, but on my end, let me just apologize.
Oh, no. It's not you. Cause I know one time we were supposed to do something. I don't know if I don't know if I went out of town. I was on a flight. I don't know. I was like, oh man, I was supposed to do that interview. And I just, but I'm glad we got the opportunity to get it done. I like doing stuff like this. I like, it's not always about being funny. If I can just talk and try to help, some other comics that hey, that means a lot to me.
When you started talking today, I picked up that you're a natural born teacher. So I wanted to pick your brain for what you could impart.
I don't know if natural born teacher. I just like helping people. That's it. If I can help somebody, if I can help one person a day, it's a prayer that I say every morning. If I can help one person a day, I'm happy, in some aspect.
I'll tell you how you can help me. I'm not asking for a favor, I'll pay. But since you're a great little teacher, I want to make a little bit funny about talking about relatable. I know there's a lot, whenever I share the fact that my daughter hasn't spoke to me in 8 years, everybody will say that they either did that to their parents or they haven't had a child do it to them. So I know there's a lot of meat to mine out of this, and it's relatable and it can really touch people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to have your help on the side and pay you to have you help me make that funny.
Okay, I can. Yeah. Okay, we'd have to sit down and go over it, a little bit, go a little bit more in depth. But yeah, we can do that. We can definitely make that happen.
I would like to have that. I would love to have your help doing that. So I'll message that to you as well.
Okay. Well, yeah. Then let me know, and we'll make it happen.
I'll get you a little message right away. You can let me know your cost.
Okay.
Thank you, Kirk.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much, Linda.
Yeah, and happy Veterans Day, and thanks for being a real veteran.
Yes, yeah, and Marine Corps birthday, November 10th.
Yes. Marine Corps birthday. A woman is a veteran, I get it, but a man is really a veteran. And a military Marine, come on, you guys. You got to admit, that's a notch above the Army. Thank you so much, Kirk.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Talk to you later. Bye.